Hi Rex, how are you?
Hello, Johnson. How are
So
you?
good.
I'm doing great.
I'm well. Thank you so much for joining me here in Truth, Wisdom, Freedom Conversations. And thank you for everyone who's tuning in live right now. I'm just making sure that I can see comments, so just bear with me for a second. There's something happening with technology right now, and things are lagging. Oh, there you are. Okay, great. All right, so I have that here. And yeah, so I just wanted to welcome you, Rex, and also thank you guys for tuning in if you're watching live, if you're watching on the replay. And I have here Rex Estell, who is based in New Mexico in Taos. And I have actually been seeing Rex for the last, I don't know, 8 years, 7, 8 years or something like that. I was introduced to Rex through a friend in New York for astrology, and I have been using astrology every year or every year and a half as a way to touch base from a big picture perspective to help make decisions, not in a prescriptive way, but what I find really helpful about understanding star chart alignments and having someone like Rex on your side who really believes in your inner capacity to succeed and to be truthful and to be wise. It's pretty awesome, you know. And so for example, I had a reading with Rex a couple of weeks ago to go over some planetary shifts for myself in 2020, and that was really helpful, and it helped me make certain decisions in regards to what's coming up in my career, what's happening on a personal level, on a soul level. And I love how down to earth Rex is on relating all this information. It's very easy to understand. And so anyway, Rex he's been doing this for 15 years, and he has done thousands of readings for people globally around the world. He is really into helping people awaken to their real inner selves, and he talks about that as the moon sign. I'll let him talk about that in a little bit, right? And people who are waiting or ready to meet themselves, and he gives you a different way of understanding yourself. So I'm really excited to have him join us today, and we're going to talk a little bit about astrology and using it as an intuitive compass to making more conscious choices in our lives. So I'm going to kick that or kind of pass that off to you, Rex, and maybe you can talk a little bit about your astrological journey, how you got into it, and how astrology really has helped shift your life. Big
Thank you,
question.
Johnson. Thank you. Well, let's start at the beginning, which is the end. We actually start at the end and go backwards. When we're born, we see everything before we're born, and then we know what time to be born in order to manifest that outcome. So our higher consciousness is so divine that it can determine these things pre-birth. And then we incarnate and promptly forget a lot of the divine information that we've been living in, so that we can re-experience the material world as though we've never been here before, and as though it's the first time, and so it's fresh and new and exciting. And so we don't really want to know about our past lives, because they're all part of this life anyway. There is no separation. It's a continuum. And what your birth chart does is dictate your path in this lifetime as to what you came here to do, to evolve and help others evolve. And that's kind of the basic thing it all boils down to.
Yeah, it really comes down to this key word, which is purpose. What is our purpose? And I think a lot of people go through a point in their life, well, whether it's earlier or later on. Some people have this during a midlife crisis, or for me, it's always been ever since I was 5. I remember looking up at the stars, thinking I was very alien and that I didn't quite belong on this planet. And so some of us have this feeling of wanting to know what really is happening, why are we here at a very young age. And I think those types of people who have this inner calling, you go into consciousness work and you dive into the esoteric wisdom, in service, because that's just kind of how we were designed. And what's really cool about astrology is that it gives you a map, as to why, and it kind of helps to validate and reaffirm stuff that's going on with my life, and also how I'm making the decisions to be in service and to make the career choices that I have made. Yeah, so and what's really cool about Rex, I mean, if you look at his name and you translate it in Latin, Rex is king, and Estell is rooted in the word stars. So it's almost like your name in Latin means king of stars, and that's your birth name. And it's just so wild, because that name, whether your mom was conscious of it or not, it kind of that's your purpose. You're someone who uses the stars like the ancient peoples did, and you use that to help guide people, and that's really beautiful. So yeah, let's talk more about purpose and how we can help people understand kind of the basics of astrology. If people who are watching this are not into astrology, or they haven't really explored astrology as a tool, what are some basic things people should look out for?
Well, the first thing everybody should have registered in their memory is their sun, moon, and rising signs, because those are the three identifiers of our personalities. And when we understand our own personality, then we have the ability to understand others better.
Yeah, because I know that, when astrology went mainstream, people were like, oh, are you a Pisces, or are you an Aries, or are you a Libra? Like, what are you? But people are using their sun signs to understand about their personalities, and that's not exactly right? So maybe you can talk a little about how you find your sun and your moon and your rising and the significance of that.
Right. So your sun sign is the introductory. That's how we meet. What sign are you? But our rising sign is almost as powerful as our sun sign, and so we read people. We all read each other, like dogs read dogs. People read people, and we sniff them out, and we actually understand these things on a vibrational level about each other right off the bat, on an intuitive level. And once we are aware of the unconscious of our birth signs, planets, and placements, then we can find where our purpose lies. And Saturn rules our purpose in life. And on January 12th, the Sun and Saturn and Pluto met to rebirth a purpose in life for those who didn't have one before January 12th, or didn't know what their purpose was before January 12th.
And this was earlier this year, 2020.
This year, when Saturn, Pluto, and the Sun lined up for the first time since, and the exact lineup that hasn't been duplicated since the time Babylon appeared. And so this is 4,000 years later. That's all this is. For what happened 4,000 years after Babylon is this. And what is happening now? Whatever is going to happen in the next 4,000 years starts now. So we just finished 4,000 years and we made it this far. Will we make it further? We shall see. But I'm sure we'll be around another 4,000 years. That's just how we are.
So because this is kind of this transitionary phase that we have, all somehow our soul has elected to arrive on this planet to be the people that we are in, this vessel that we're inhabiting, right? That, would you say that is why we're experiencing a lot of the events that's unfolding right now on the planet? A lot of people are going through really painful, hard times, especially if you look at America, where you are currently. There's a lot of anger and rage and lashing out at the existing patriarchal structures. So what does this mean? You said it's 4,000 years ago there was a certain planetary alignment, and now we're at the end of that. Now we're transitioning to the next 4,000 years. And you were talking before we jumped on this call about the Age of Aquarius and major planetary shifts. So maybe you want to give the viewers some insight on what this means from such a big picture perspective, because it can be a bit daunting to look at it.
Well, it is daunting, and it is why we have the virus, because Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth. And so a conjunction of the Sun, Saturn, and Pluto was going to decimate the population, just astrologically, for whatever reason. Just happened to be the virus, happened to be this particular application. It could have been something else. And I'm liking to think that the virus is a better version of something else. It could have been much worse, even though we're losing 115,000 people in the United States in 3 months. Imagine something worse than that. There are things worse than that. And as bad as that is, we just have to be grateful that we are going to survive this. It is a survival experience, and it is about having common sense and being practical and using our greatest level of intelligence to survive. And being smart is the key to the Age of Aquarius. But there is such a thing as intelligent people who are misled, and their intelligence does not serve them. So there has to be a determination as to, what we consider intelligent actions versus mindlessness. And we're experiencing a lot of purposeful evil right now, because it's the end of the last 4,000 years of purposeful evilness.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Purposeful evilness. So you're saying, what do you mean by that? Are you saying that this quote unquote evilness is predestined in some way?
Well, we'll just give it a name. We'll call it racism.
Okay.
And then that kind of covers all forms and aspects of evil behavior, because it's a way of disconnecting from humanity, thinking that there's a excuse for disconnection when there is no excuse for disconnection other than making up an excuse.
Right.
But the whole purpose we come here is to be united and at one and holistic.
So would you say then, like from an astrological perspective, all of the separation and all of the what you said about creating the excuse that there is separation, the purpose of that would be then to realize that we are not separated, and that's why the schism is so big right now. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah. Every experience is a teaching tool, and with Capricorn, that is the great teacher, and with the Sun being the corona and the life force energy, Saturn being our wisdom and experience, and Pluto being our integrity and the aspect of birth and rebirth. So we can leave out the word death, because rebirth encompasses the word death. Death is kind of a stop sign when you're really just describing the end of the road. It's, you don't need a stop sign the road ends. The road ends, you're at the end of the road. Stop sign, well, it's kind of nice, but it's pointless. It doesn't really matter. So, but what we're doing with the message from January 12th is going inside, applying all the experience that we've gained from lifetimes of re-inhabiting and rebirthing, so that we could help and teach others what we've learned. And there's really nothing else that we're here to do except to guide and teach and learn. Guide, teach, learn, guide, teach, learn.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And for those of you who are just tuning in right now, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the box below. If you have any astrological questions for Rex about your particular sign, very briefly, I'm sure Rex can give you some insight and how that relates to you for 2020. So we're happy to take any of that. You guys who are tuning in right now. So that brings me to the next question. So for the collective, for the world, the major planetary shifts that are happening, what are some milestones that I know you told me about December 21st of this year as the big conjunction that all the astrologers are looking out for? Are there other milestones along the way? And what do they mean?
Yes, they're minor compared to January 12th and December 21st. Everything is pretty minor because we're having the two biggest conjunctions in 1 year at the opposite ends of the year. But within 1 year, in 2020, we're having the Sun, Pluto, and Saturn conjuncted. And then on December 21st, Saturn and Jupiter, that's the grand conjunction. But they're almost equal because when you get Pluto and the Sun, it's the only thing that equals that would be the Sun and Saturn. And then you throw Saturn, Sun, and Pluto in together, and that's quite a powerful Molotov cocktail for humanity. It's definitely why we are experiencing the end of the last 4,000 years, the birth of the next 4,000, and we keep referring to the last 400 years of United States racist history. So that's interesting that it's increments of 400 and 4,000, but it is all about the 4 right now in the universe. And so for humanity to evolve, we have to come to a complete stop. Saturn, Pluto, Sun shut down with the virus. Everybody stopped. The Earth recovered, got a breath for a minute, and showed us what it would be like without all the cars and the hustle bustle. And if we would learn to live at home within ourselves. No one is at home. No one is home. There's no one home, literally. And when we don't know how to be at home within ourselves, there's a lesson to be learned about what is inside, who is inside, and what that is, and what our purpose is in life, and how we're here to help people see what they can't see. That's all it is.
Yeah. So okay. So we have these two conjunctions. One that happened in January, this massive conjunction, and one in December. And so it's bookended this year.
They're bookends. Right? So in between, it's just going to be every day and every night, every day, every night.
Looking for how we relate to our inner resources and how we become autonomous within ourselves. And if we don't, let's say people don't make the conscious decisions to shift their limiting beliefs, the fear, the panic, the old stories, the wounds, the crap that happened in the past, and they bring all of that into 2021, then what? What's going to happen?
Interesting. I love it, but I'm a positive outcome guy. But
I'm a devil's advocate. I want to know what what happens if it doesn't happen.
I like the worst case scenario, because it always leads to something positive. So the worst things that happen in life always lead to the best. That's just the way it's designed. So there is no not having a positive outcome. You go through hell to get through heaven. That's the end of that story. And it's pretty basic. But what we're going through in 2020 is to go within, to find our inner wisdom, and to become spiritually strong. And inner strength is all that you need to live on the planet, but it is not easy to gain. So then every experience that is difficult for anyone in this life is just their version of school and a self-chosen experience so that they can grow spiritually.
So what does this mean about travel? Because this is something that I've seen already happen to some people that have been trying to book international travel because they're like, oh, okay, things are kind of quieting down now, and I want to get back into how things were. And what was really interesting was I've literally just witnessed a flight get canceled, not from me, but from someone I know. Flights canceled from Australia, from British Airways to the UK until August. I know someone who's trying to plan an international trip in October. I had a retreat planned to Bhutan in April, and I know I've had to move that, and I thought, oh, maybe October will be a good time. And then I spoke to you, and what you told me, I mean, you always allow me to make my own decisions. You don't tell me this is what you must do. You go, these are the themes this year. And after hearing that, I made the decision, nope, this year is not the time to book any sort of flight. I'm gonna wait till next year. So what does this mean for people that are really, I mean, yes, it's great, to say all this, to go into yourself, be more resilient, to find your inner strength, to develop your spiritual capacities, to, embody what home means in the present here and now. However, there are people that are feeling really antsy. They just want to, what's your advice to these people, because I'm encountering so many people.
Yeah. There's a lot of Jupiter's in Capricorn. Jupiter's travel. Capricorn's the high road, the hard road. So everybody that hasn't experienced difficulties or hardship yet are choosing to make life harder because it hasn't been hard enough. So we like making things difficult. When Jupiter's in Capricorn, Jupiter is the biggest planet, and Capricorn likes it hard. The harder, the better. I think everybody likes it that way, probably. But, I'm just being facetious. But people basically, we don't learn something easily. It would be nice. It's a concept, but it doesn't seem to apply. So we learn things through experience. And so that's Saturn, Jupiter, and the Sun in Capricorn is all about the experience. So then everything that's painful, difficult, dark, and hard is what we are choosing to experience now, so that we don't have to go through that later.
Well, it's kind of like, the Capricorn's the goat, and you think about how mountain goats climb up, they choose the craziest little paths to get up to the tiniest little jagged piece of cliff off the precipice of some, So yes. That's collectively how we are. We're choosing the craziest, most difficult path.
Right now. Beautiful image. Thank you. That is where humanity is right now.
So when does Capricorn go away into a more graceful, easy,
Jupiter goes into Aquarius at the end of the year and joins Saturn, and so the conjunction's not in Capricorn, it's in Aquarius, and that's the big boost into the age of Aquarius.
And this is December 21st.
Yes.
So until then, listen up, everyone who's watching. We're that mountain goat choosing to go up a really difficult path until December 21st. And so if you're feeling antsy and you're feeling like life is really difficult, you're saying
choose something difficult, like going to take classes, or something as hard as you can imagine, but without doing it in a way that affects other people's lives or harms them. Now is the time to be a goat, Capricorn goat, by yourself, climbing mountains, doing backflips, and landing on your feet and having everything be like just fine, no matter how screwed up it is. Everything works out.
I actually had a dream last night that I bought a sewing machine and I was making dresses, and that is not something that I would ever consciously choose, but I'm like, that is the most impossible thing that I could imagine me doing. My mom was a seamstress, and I never had any interest in doing anything meticulous. I'm not a meticulous person in that way. I'm structured and organized, but all of a sudden today I had this huge intuition to do something really challenging. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a sewing machine and learn how to sew. But this kind of makes sense with what you're talking about with these planetary alignments till the end of this year. Yes. There is this part of me that really wants a big challenge.
That's a great example.
I wonder what everyone else's challenges are.
sewing machines are so Capricornian. Think
Are
about
they?
it.
Huh.
Good example.
I have a question here from Annalise.
Okay.
She's saying, what do you see about children choosing this? What do you see about children who are choosing to be born in this time and the relationships that are being born with their parents into this time as well?
Well, the people that are incarnating at this time are coming here knowing, as we did, what we were coming for. We actually came for this time. Everything previous was just waiting for this day to arrive. We are in the moment that, Nostradamus predicted, the Bible, all the revelations, everything. This is what it is right now, whatever you want to call it. But it's all, prophecy coming to fruition. And but it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the last 4,000 years, which for most people, it seems like the end of the world. But it's just the end of a cycle that is going to birth the next cycle, which is the Age of Aquarius, which is when our solar system goes through a planetary field of light. It's basically a field of energy that is filled with golden light, and it happens every 13,000 years. And so there's a 26,000 year galactic cycle that the sun is on. Every 13,000 years we reach the halfway point, and we go into the photon belt for 1,000 years. And that's what we're entering. And that's when we think we're in heaven, because we're surrounded by golden light and we don't know what the hell is going on.
Yeah, and you were saying, you were telling me a little bit before this chat about the Age of Aquarius, and that about 1962, and that's when certain planets went into alignment with Aquarius, and that was the beginning of the transition. So we're in this transitory phase for another 15 to 20 years,
Yes.
and which is messy. Transition is always messy, right? Until we get into this.
And the last
golden
time that was in 62, the Saturn and Jupiter were conjunct for that alignment, and so we're having another alignment like that now, that is going to just accelerate things. As you saw in the 60s, how fast we went into the beginning of the Age of Aquarius. So it's really a 120-year cusp that it takes to enter one age to the next, or 160-year cusp. And so we're about 20 years away from the end of that cusp.
Okay. I mean, right now, it was interesting because during everything that's been happening in the States, it was a few weeks ago that the FBI just very casually announced that aliens exist and that they're not hiding anymore, and no one blinked an eye. So they're like, all right, yeah.
And that's what it's going to be like when I pull up in my UFO to, do a reading for you, in 10 years from now. It's going to be like what we're doing is no big deal. Once it happens, we're like, oh yeah, whatever. It loses its excitement, but everything's new for a minute, and then it's not. And then we experience everything that is amazing and out of the blue and eccentric for the reasons of we come here to be excited about our existence. And so everything we're doing is to keep us excited about existing.
I have a question. This is a bit more grounded in American politics, but it has to do with the transition into the Age of Aquarius. So what do you see happening in the next year, the next 15 years, in relationship to what's happening with the polarization that tends to just come with the territory of being American, right? There's always this left, right. It's so extreme in America with opinions and taking sides.
It's America's.
Yeah,
America's birth chart is the culprit, and then our progress chart has Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn for a long time. I think probably 20 years or something. And so it really, America was born with Pluto in Capricorn, and it's never left, but it's going to go into Aquarius right around the time that Pluto actually goes into Aquarius. America's progressed chart, Pluto, does the same thing. They parallel. It's pretty heavy duty when things parallel, because it's Pluto at 29 Capricorn is the 29th degree is the degree of disaster when the heroes rise. Okay,
which is what's happening right now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we all came to the earth now to be heroes for each other.
And so you're saying
Pluto,
that America is transitioning into the golden age because that's its birth chart, its progress chart,
yeah,
at the same time when the world is going to transition into the age of Aquarius.
yeah.
So does that mean that for the next 20 years, all hell will break loose in America until
break down.
Okay.
Yeah, break down, because it's Pluto, and Pluto is the repair planet. And so everything that's broken is breaking down, and then Pluto fixes it. When it goes into Aquarius, we reinvent and reapproach and relook at everything through a more contemporary, advanced, progressive eye. Pluto and Capricorn in America's chart has kept us, while the rest of the world has gone beyond. America was ahead of everyone at one time, and we set the stage, and the rest of the world eclipsed us and went ahead of us. And now, once Pluto leaves Capricorn, America will catch up with the rest of the world and become a zeitgeist again. But right now, the rest of the world picked up where we left off. And I think that's the best thing to happen anyway. All we were was paddles.
Yeah. Are there other parallels happening in other countries around the world? Like we see stuff happening in Europe. There's all types of things happening in Asia.
China is a Libra country, born on the sign of Libra, and so all the planets in Capricorn are focused on everything with Hong Kong and the mainland and all the stuff, the security law going on right now, and basically China's really the political structure. Their chart is under attack by the alignment on January 12th, and so that's why they're fighting so hard for control of Hong Kong, because they see what's coming, and they really do know that that's inevitable for things to change. They are very much into feng shui and astrology in China, and they pretty much know a lot of stuff. But you know, when you're a country is just its own thing with its own chart, and until that country's chart reaches a point of extinction or dissolution, we have to put up with those countries. And everybody has to put up with the United States until it dissolves, which it is going to, morph into something different. It's already different right now. As of this last week, we have autonomous zones in America, and they're going to spread throughout every town and city that we have, because it's just going to be a new approach to governing, policing, and living and sharing. It's the age of Aquarius comes overnight. The last 2 weeks of our lives, the world has changed for the better. We've seen all the worst things, but it's only to make sure that we have a grasp of what good is versus the option.
Right. What's happening in Europe? And I'm curious about Australia, because I'm here for the next 4 years. So do you know anything about that?
Well, it's basically all of the government is ruled by Capricorn. Its structure and its limitations, its law, its Saturn, and so all countries, governments are subjected to basically collapsing right now. And so what's happening with Black Lives Matter is just exposing the underlying racism of all governments. Basically, there might be a few that aren't, but now that this has been, the sheet's been pulled back, we're not going to put the covers back up. Pluto in Capricorn is exposed to all the ugly corruption and racism in the world so that it can be dealt with properly. And that's, we had to wait until these lineups to take place for that to happen. With America being a country, a Cancer country, which is a real nice guy sign, and then Pluto in Capricorn in our chart is like the dark side of America. So we have that nice guy, and then we have the mafia guy backing him up, saying, he has no choice but, to do whatever I tell him. And so that is what's breaking down. The structure of Capricorn, corruption's ruled by Pluto and Saturn, and when you have a lineup in Capricorn, it exposes all the corruption, and there's a lot of that right now to be exposed. So then that's all this is our purpose in life is to expose the corruption and heal from all the corruption of the past and make it possible for people to live holistic lives that are not subject to all the corruption that the old paradigm has brought with it, that is going down the drain faster than we can even, wash it down the drain. It'll be gone fast. It's over. It's going to happen overnight. I mean, it's a new world today.
No, for sure. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your big picture insights on what's happening globally. Are there any other words of wisdom that you would like to impart?
Mercury's getting ready to go retrograde for 3 weeks, and that's going to join 4 planets retrograde. So then, we all go within under retrogrades. We all, every new moon makes us want to spring forward and go out and get out of the house and go everywhere. And that's nature, and natural. But right now, it's basically like walking on thin ice. You just have to see how far out there you can go safely.
Which is probably why airlines are shutting down and canceling flights.
Right. That's a good example. And plus, you're in a contained, sealed container breathing the same air. And so the airlines are going to be the hardest hit, but they can be once they figure out how to deal with this properly, then we'll be flying safely from now on. So this is all the germs, everything that got transmitted in the last 6 months can be prevented in the future. So all this is a test of our systems and to see what works and doesn't. And by the time we're done with implementing new systems in the airline industry, it'll be a much safer thing to fly than it was before in terms of germs and carrying viruses around the world, which is, what happens when people fly. Yeah. So I'm excited about the future more than I've always been excited. I'm a positive outcome person, but the last 2 weeks have just been, for every horrible thing, there's something positive. For everything positive, there's something horrible. There's good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. It's simultaneous. It's constant. It's just like night and day. There's always night. It's always day. Sometimes it's longer. Sometimes it's shorter. That is life.
Yeah. Yes.
That's just how the planets work.
Yeah. Well,
follow the moon.
Follow the moon. Yes. I really appreciate your time, Rex, for sharing your insights. And for those of you who are watching and you're interested in getting more specific reading pertaining to you, because we all were born in different days or in different times and different signs and have different astrological influences that move us, and we will relate to what is unfolding in these times in different ways. So I've gotten a very specific reading for myself with Rex, and I tune in with him pretty much every year. And if you are really called to learning more about your natal chart into what's happening now, your progress chart, please reach out to Rex. You can find him on Facebook. You can also find him on his website, rexestell.com. And yeah, I think you'll really enjoy the information that he imparts to you. So yeah, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Rex.
Thank you, Johnson.
All right, I'll talk to you
Take care.
soon. All right, bye.